Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I'm so excited that you're here. I have a very special program for you today with a very special guest. So, buckle up. This is going to be a fascinating episode. My name is Emily Fritchey. They call me the Skin Whisperer, and I am a holistic skin therapist and the founder of Sunshine Botanicals Holistic Skin Therapy. I work with clients in my clinic still, and the buzz, especially in the beauty space now, is all things weight loss with GLP-1 drugs and medication. I have people coming to see me as they are taking these drugs or as they have stopped taking them, and they are experiencing some pretty dramatic changes in how they look and in their face, which is what brings them to see me. And that's why I have brought my very special guest on this morning to clear up some myths, because the way these drugs work does produce rapid weight loss. They were originally created for diabetics, and I will let my guest tell you more about that. But it's become absolutely the hottest thing on the market because you lose weight quickly. But what also happens is the devastation that can happen to the face with sagging skin, sunken eyes, etc. And that's why I've invited my guest here today to talk about GLP-1 drugs, beauty, weight loss, and get the facts, because there is so much misinformation out there. And for those of you that follow me, you know that I really want to drill deep into anything that we use topically or internally to make sure that you have the facts that you need to make the best decisions, informed decisions for your own life. So when we're talking about looking amazing, dropping weight, and knowing how to deal with what comes our way when we take these steps, that's what today's program is all about. So let me introduce my guest. She is someone that I have known and respected for quite a while, and she is really my nutritionist. So I'd like to introduce you to Miss Amy Rawls, who is a wealth of information and has a very long list of credentials. So I'm just going to introduce a few of the high level things that she's known for. She is with Transformation Enzyme Corporation. They're in Houston, Texas, and they are my go-to resource for gut health and wellness. And Amy is a registered dietitian, and she is a functional medical nutritionist and certified enzyme therapist. Now, her credentials are much broader, but those are the top ones we're going to talk about today. She has an incredible background in the science of gut health, wellness, and all things enzyme therapy. And if you're new to the idea of working with enzymes for the body, buckle up, really buckle up, because this is life-changing information. So Amy and I were talking, and I said, what is going on with the GLP-1 drugs? And I said, I'm seeing clients that are worried about sagging skin, and they're dealing with Ozempic and Mounjaro and some of the other meds that you can certainly tell us about. And I said, what is happening and how can I help my clients, especially since so much of this goes back to the gut, and what is right and what is wrong and what is hype and what's truth. So with that being said, I'd like to introduce Amy, and she is fascinating. So Miss Amy, would you please tell us, what are GLP-1 drugs? Why is this such a craze? What do they do? And what do you see happening in our culture as a result of the launch of these medications?
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me on, Emily. I'm super excited to be here. And I would say, back at you with you're my go-to for all things skin. And so glad we were able to connect. I think that was back in 2019, I believe is when you came. Anyway, it's been a great growing friendship and business relationship. So thrilled to be here. So to your question, that was a lot of questions in one. So I'm going to start, and then you can just keep reminding me of stuff I don't answer. So the first question
Yeah.
was the what are GLP-1 drugs? So a GLP-1 drug or glucagon-like peptide 1 agonist, what they do is they just mimic the effects of our naturally occurring GLP-1, because yes, humans do naturally make GLP-1, and GLP-1 that we make is part of a group of metabolic hormones, which are called incretin hormones. And what those incretin hormones do is they help to decrease our blood sugar levels. And so the majority, and I'm telling you guys this so you can kind of understand why our production is lower these days, but the majority of our GLP-1s that we naturally make, they're produced by what is called L cells that line our small intestine and our colon. And then we have even smaller quantities of GLP-1 that are secreted by the pancreas, as well as our central nervous system. And then what triggers the release of GLP-1 is food consumption, as well as the type of food you consume, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit later. And so when you eat, your body naturally releases GLP-1 and it stays in your system for a little while. And what the GLP-1 does when you produce it, whether you're producing it naturally or whether you're injecting it with the agonist medications, they help to regulate our insulin release and our blood sugar control. And that's what results in supporting with healthier food intake, because when your blood sugar is not regulated, it can do one of two things. It can cause you to want to eat more or cause you to eat less, depending on the type of dysregulation you have. But typically, when we have what's called like insulin resistance, that basically means that the cell is not able to utilize your body's glucose for energy. So the brain sends a signal to eat more, right? Because the glucose isn't getting in, right? So the body's thinking, okay, I need more energy. Nothing's coming into my cells. But meanwhile, you actually have plenty of glucose in the body, right? But it's not going where it needs to go. So the body's sending a signal, send me more, send me more. That's, in a sense, insulin resistance. I like to explain it as a key that has to unlock the cell door. That the insulin is your key, right? To let the glucose go in so that you can function all these things. But when that key doesn't fit, the door doesn't open. So glucose is just knocking on the door, but it can't come in.
Wow.
And so that cell is still needing energy. So the brain gets a signal, okay, eat again. And so we have excess caloric intake when we really, because the body thinks it's starving when it's really not. And so what the drugs also do, so that's more of the metabolic effect they have, but the physiological effects is they support decreased food intake. And they do that because, one, they do affect the hypothalamus, which is part of the brain center, helps to regulate. Your hypothalamus kind of dictates pretty much everything as part of your endocrine HPA axis. But it triggers the hypothalamus to control that brain signal. Also, it delays stomach emptying, meaning those foods are going to stay in your system longer, so you stay fuller longer. We also do this through encouraging things like fiber and protein, right? Because your body takes longer to break those things down. But GLP-1 drugs, or your natural GLP-1, can delay that stomach emptying. It also, what the drugs do, and again, like you kind of mentioned earlier, whether you're for or against these drugs, I don't really care where you stand on it. The point of what I'm doing today is to just deliver the facts, right? And a non-biased way. And so they do actually have benefit because they can protect the beta cell mass, which your beta cells is what the pancreas produces to make insulin, right? So they do support insulin uptake, meaning they help that key work. They allow the key to fit, right? And improve that insulin resistance. They also alter taste perception and food palatability. So there are a lot of food aversions that occur when you're taking the drugs. Sometimes it's healthy foods, sometimes it's bad foods. I know there is a lot of research being done right now on using the GLP-1s for alcoholics because it puts it really deters your craving for alcohol.
This is a blood.
It also,
I'm hearing a lot. Sorry to interrupt you, but I've got to add this.
yeah.
I'm hearing in a number of things you've just said, this is a blood sugar thing because it's affecting. I mean, right? So this is.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's the physiology of what the drug is supposed to do. It's blood sugar regulation. So what people don't realize is when your blood sugar kind of rules everything, right? Even up to your hormone dysregulation. When your blood sugar isn't regulated, it creates inflammation, it creates increased hunger, all these different things. So by regulating your blood sugar, which is what these drugs are doing, the insulin is able to open the cell door so that the glucose can go in and feed the cell, right?
Right.
When that happens, other hormonal shifts happen, like your body's release of a hormone called leptin, which is your satiety hormone.
Yes.
Whereas ghrelin is your hunger hormone. So also when you're taking these agonists, it supports leptin improvement so that you
Wow.
get that satiety signal, right? So it's a lot of it's a hormonal shift that is happening, but again, it does keep people fuller longer because of that delayed um, gastric
Wow.
motility in the GI. So it's a mixture of both, but really the big thing is the blood sugar control. Because there are people on these drugs that are eating 1,600 calories a day and still dropping weight, where they would do that before the same exact caloric intake and not be able to lose weight. And it's because they were insulin resistant the whole time. And this is where, for me, I get really irritated with the people, whether it be doctors that aren't properly trained in nutrition, which is most of them, or whether it be all these influencers lately, right, that are
Right.
really muddying the water on effective ways to lose weight. And here's the reality of it. It is not it's not as simple as thermodynamics, which is basically the whole calories in, calories out, right?
Right.
It Weight loss is so much more than just calories in, calories out. There's a lot more that goes into it. And insulin resistance is a big piece of that.
Wow. That I'd really like for you, before I move on to my other um, questions for you here, let's talk a little bit more about gut health in general, because I spend a lot of time with my clients talking about that. And as I do intake with someone new coming to see me, I'm looking at the whole person. That's what holistic means to me. What is your
Mhm.
lifestyle? Doctors don't ask these questions anymore. What is your life like, your stress like, your environment, your foods, your medications, all of these things, like you say, have an effect. And people are overwhelmed in today's world, like you said, with influencers on skincare, ingredients, cosmetics, food, diet, the whole bit. So it's a revolving door of trial and error. Having said that, I come back always to the gut, because you can take a drug or a supplement to address a situation, but oftentimes you're still just treating symptoms. You're not looking at underlying root causes. So, since I talk about digestion things, and I find out things about my clients, such as that no one's ever asked them, how often they have eliminations or bowel movements. I find out they may have Crohn's or irritable bowel because stress is held inside, and things are just kind of all over the place. And some of my best results with my clients that have inflammatory skin conditions like rosacea, eczema, um, you name it. Aging is an inflammatory condition if you get right down to it. When we reduce the acid in the body, how much the skin clears, especially when we have clean ingredients on the surface. Now, having said that, if you could talk a little bit briefly before I want to get into gut support here. And I understand that there are, the GLP-1 drugs and the different ones. Maybe you can name them so people are familiar what you need to look at and do, and how those drugs can affect your digestive system, and how specifically enzymes can support that. And I'm also super excited to learn that there is a natural way, if you don't want to do the drug, to get a similar result. Now, I don't know if you have time to get into all of that, but I would like for you to address maybe gut health in general, enzymes, where
Mhm.
people can start. If you're not doing anything and you want great skin and you want to either clear problems or slow down the rapid acceleration of aging, and or deal with the side effects, if you will, of these drugs, where do we start? Let's talk gut health for a minute.
Yeah, so whether you're using the drugs or not, I mean, gut, no matter what it is. So even if you're listening to today's podcast and you don't need to lose weight, but there's not a person walking around that's completely untouchable when it comes to their health, right? We all have something. Maybe it's anxiety, maybe it's skin, maybe it's hormones, whatever it is. What I love about working with the gut, and that being my area of expertise and the company I work for's expertise, is that we fit everywhere, because all disease begins in the gut
Yes.
and all health begins in the gut. So I like to use the analogy of, think of the body as a tree or a tomato plant, or a plant you're trying to grow, right? So if you're going to start a garden, you're not just going to any gardener will tell you the number one thing you want to make sure you have good is soil quality. You got to have good soil. And I think of soil as like your lifestyle. So this is where sleep, and movement and stress and spirituality and nutrition, that makes up your soil, right? That's your lifestyle. Because I don't care how good of a supplement you have, it will never outdo lifestyle ever, right? So lifestyle has to be set and those things have to be addressed. Then the next step when you're planting your garden is you get the soil lined out. You're going to put you want a good, healthy plant. Like, I'm not going to go to the nursery and pick out a tree that has a bunch of dead leaves to plant in my garden, or a tomato plant that has a broken stem. That would be stupid, right? So I like to think of, because the reason I wouldn't do that is because if the stem is not functioning, if the stem is full of holes, if the stem is broken, if it's clogged, has disease of some sort, are any of the branches going to be nourished? They're not, because the nutrients from the soil have to travel via the stem to get to those branches so that it can flower and produce leaves, fruit, whatever you want. The body is no different. The digestive system, so we have 11 different systems, right? As human beings, we are made up of 11 systems: digestive, nervous, endocrine, muscular, urinary, skin,
Respiratory.
cardiovascular, I'm having,
The respiratory system.
respiratory, endocrine, okay, all these systems. The digestive system included, it is the only system that touches all of the others. So your digestive system is the trunk of your tree. It's the stem of that tomato plant, right? So if someone is coming to see you with acne, we know that's hormonal, right? We know a lot of times acne is hormonal, or it could be a bacteria, whatever, skin system dysfunction, whatever it is. We detox where? We detox through our colon, our kidneys, our lungs, and our skin, right? And so when I see a lot of skin flare-ups, I know right away it's typically going to be gut related. One, because the gut and skin axis are directly connected, but also when we're not detoxing via the colon. So this is why, like with skin, for example, a big part of any esthetician's assessment, one of their big questions should be, are you having a bowel movement every day? Because if it's not coming out your colon, the other biggest detox organ that we have is what?
The skin.
It's your skin. So it's going to come out there. Same thing with hormones. Okay. If someone's coming to see me for hormone imbalance and then they're like, well, why are you putting me on digestive enzymes to support my gut health? Well, because the digestive system is the trunk of that tree. It touches it without it functioning and getting the nutrients that the endocrine system needs, which is what regulates your hormones. The endocrine system is going to be out of balance. Not to mention, how do you think you make hormones? Through your diet that is supposed to be adequate in protein and fat and complex carbs. You physically cannot make hormones without fat. This is a whole nother soapbox I could get on with cholesterol lowering drugs, making people's cholesterol so low they no longer have enough fat to create. You need cholesterol to produce hormones.
Yes.
Right. So again, that's just another example.
I have to share this fact. It's not the amount of cholesterol that you intake, it's the amount of cholesterol you don't eliminate. And that comes right back to the colon and fiber and the body being able to eliminate excess waste from the body.
Yeah, definitely. So, when it comes to the gut, those are just a couple examples of how it touches literally everything. I mean, we know so much more about the microbiome now, which is the amount of bacteria that, we have a microbiome in our eyes and our ears and our mouth and our nose, on our skin. But the biggest microbiome and the most well-studied is the microbiome that lives within the digestive system. And that guy rules everything, right? So the bacteria in your belly can completely dictate how you think, how you move, what you look like. So, again, it's just so multifaceted in all the things that it touches. So, and when it comes to, why enzymes or why digestion, because at Transformation, so we're a nutrition and enzyme supplement company, and we specialize in functional holistic approaches, meaning not that we don't believe in pharmaceuticals, at least I do, because they do have a place, right? And that's the integrative approach of using both holistic minded plus integrated or allopathic and blending them together. Mm-hmm. But, always kind of addressing it first with, well, let's look at lifestyle and maybe try a more natural approach. And that's really kind of where transformation starts. And so we always look at nutrition first, digestion second, because we know to truly peel the onion all the way back, right? The body's a very complex creature. So we have many layers we have to peel back to get to the root of disease. And Hippocrates said it best, and he was way ahead of his time, thousands of years ago. All disease begins in the gut. So it just makes sense to start there. We've seen, so transformation's been in the business of, doing this for over 40 years, if you count, when Dr. Dickey actually started. And what she saw, and it was kind of the aha, is that we're making this too hard. If we just start with making sure that people are eating good food, digesting that food, and not creating more toxicity and inflammation, because when you don't digest, what happens is the carbohydrates that you're eating, they ferment and create a lot of excess gas, putting more burden on your detox organs like your liver. Same thing with proteins. Undigested proteins, they putrefy. So like your bodybuilders, if anybody's a bodybuilder and you notice when you're just pounding protein shakes, pounding protein bars, 7-ounce protein servings at a meal, you start to get gas that smells like rotten eggs. That's sulfuric acid smell. That's putrefaction. That's what putrefaction smells like. Believe it or not, your toots can dictate what kind of digestive distress you have going on. So like if you eat, for example, a lot of broccoli or cabbage, you might notice that your gas has a very distinct smell, right? That cruciferous fermented smell. And while that can just happen from the fiber, but that's an indication of not digesting carbohydrates as efficiently as you should. And when we don't digest fats efficiently, that creates rancidity. The fats that aren't digested turn rancid. So here you are, a biohacker or somebody trying to be healthy, and you're pounding salmon, you're eating your fish oil, or maybe you're doing keto because you've heard that that's the thing to do now. Guess what? If you aren't digesting your fats and you're taking in a lot of fat, you're getting a lot of rancidity happening, and that leads to toxicity. And what happens is that toxicity continues to fester, right? Because we think that the headaches, I'll just take an Advil, or we get the gas and the loose bowel, I'll take Gas X, or, I'll take a Imodium or something to slow that down. We silence the symptoms, right? So it just keeps brewing underneath. And the longer we continue to ignore that, we get even more inflammation. And then that leads to disease, because you said it earlier, the root of what's driving illness in almost all of us is inflammation, including aging, right? So that's kind of does that make sense on how not digesting can lead to
It does.
disease?
It does. And
Yeah.
I'd like to pivot just quickly to everybody watching here is on a different level. This could be brand new information for some, and it could be old hat to others, but starting with gut health is so critical, especially if you want to look and feel your best. And I have seen clients that have improved substantially, not only with their skin, but cognitive health, with thinking more clearly. I'm just blown away because the brain is the second gut, right? Did I say that correctly?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay. The brain is the second
Yeah.
gut. So many things are affected. And I would like to, just for the purposes of this, uh, of this episode, we could talk all day. And this is a fascinating subject, you guys, when you really get into it and really understand body chemistry and how the body works. If you know just the basics, you can be so much more aware when you are online and you see a presentation or you hear an influencer. There is so much misinformation out there. My clients say they just tune it out. They just can't even begin to process it so much anymore. And it comes when, especially if you're dealing with beauty and wellness, you've got how you look, how you feel, what to take, what not to take, who knows what to believe. I want to come back. What I'm trying to get to is I want to give you a simple place to begin. Where do you start with supporting the gut, whether you're taking GLP-1s or not? And you may want to refine this more, Amy, after I share this, but there are 3 basic places for people to begin. One is a food digestive enzyme with each and every meal They need to be in the system when the food goes into the mouth so the body can break down carbohydrates, fats, proteins, and help your body assimilate the nutrients and eliminate the waste. Step number one, that should be on everybody's kitchen table and in your purse for when you go out to dinner. The second thing is I could do an entire program on protease. Proteolytic enzymes are life saving. They are so incredible. Protease helps the body break down and digest protein. So if you are doing a heavy duty diet, if you're doing keto or any of those other things, you have got to have enough protease to be able to break this down. Protease helps the body to eliminate or quell the acid in the blood and in the system. And Amy can speak to that in much greater depth than me. But I like to take protease in between meals during the day, and a very powerful probiotic first thing in the morning and the last thing at night before you go to bed, preferably on an empty stomach. If you do those three, a digestive enzymes, protease, and a probiotic, it's an incredibly powerful place to start. Transformation does work with individuals. Am I correct? People that may
Yes,
need
ma'am.
more help and more support for very specific things. And if you look into enzyme therapy, it's really mind blowing. So start there. Amy can tell you more before we leave here, but just start with a basic gut health protocol. And then if you have issues that are deeper, they can help you define, because they have so many different enzyme formulations for different things. But this is where a wellness protocol, in my experience, begins. Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to take this and I'd like for you to, I'm looking at my notes here because I've got several things I want to cover before we complete our program, but matching up, and as far as how you look in the mirror, what's happening to the body, what's happening to the skin with GLP-1s, let's talk about that. And Amy, you would recommend those three pieces that I'm talking about if you are doing GLP-1 drugs? Are those the three specific enzymes to help the body deal with this?
Well, so yeah, what you were describing is what we call our foundation, our healthy gut program. So definitely, it's part of it, but to support the microbiome, like I said, it's a full, uh, full circle approach. So, really diet has to be on too. So like fiber, things like that, that's really how you're going to get it. So to support the microbiome, the best thing to do is have enough pre and probiotic through your diet, through plenty of variated fiber. The next step is to make sure you're digesting that fiber. So when Emily's talking about, having a digestive enzyme in place, yes, it's going to help to make sure your body's able to utilize all those different prebiotics, which will lead to postbiotics and et cetera. But also prevent that continuation of toxicity and inflammation and getting ahead of it. So even if you're listening today and you're like, I'm not having any, my stomach, isn't giving me any issues. I go to the bathroom every day. I don't need a digestive enzyme. It's outside of just digestive symptoms. It could be skin issues, it could be hormone issues, it could be muscular issues, it could be urinary issues. It all goes back to the same place. So yes, our healthy gut program is something that we do start with because it's the most simplified way to truly address root cause of almost every disease by ensuring that the nutrients that you're eating, which should be good, right? That's where diet has to come in, are getting digested and utilized efficiently. The proteolytic, what it's doing is it's helping to mitigate the inflammation, reduce toxicity, support blood rheology, which is, your blood flow, and making sure that the nutrients that you're consuming are actually able to travel via the nutrient highway, which is your blood, to where they need to go. It also modulates your immune system. Proteolytics are great because they do so many things in just one product versus you having to take 5 different things to do the same job. Mm-hmm. And then the probiotic is to make sure that the microbiome is being reintroduced to good bacteria with some prebiotic, because the reality is most of us aren't getting exposed to that kind of stuff anymore. We're not working in gardens. We're not outside. We're not eating probiotic rich foods or prebiotic rich foods to begin with. So that's where supplementation really does come in. And now when it comes to, the impact on the body, I'm guessing your question is, how do these GLP-1 drugs impact digestion? What's happening biologically inside the body? Is that where you want me to go now?
Where I would like to go, and here's what I would like to tell our listeners. What I would like to do, I'd like for you and I from this point, just to go over the high points. I would love, we're going to have some information we can, that you guys can download when this podcast is complete. You don't have to worry about remembering all this. I want to give you the highlight and have you understand how critically important enzymes are to how you look and how you feel. Okay. This
Yeah.
company is one that I trust immensely, and they have some incredible education, which is what we all need. We can simplify this. So, for our viewers' benefit, Amy, I'd like to move into what it's doing to the skin and to the face because of the amount of fat loss, and about how women are, women and men for that matter, people who are using this drug or taking this approach to weight or blood sugar issues.
Yeah, and so whether, you had asked earlier about the type of drugs, whether it's Wegovy, Mounjaro, liraglutide, semaglutide, which are the compounded forms, or if you're just even on a weight loss journey, because you can get Ozempic face. They're titling it that. Ozempic face happens regardless of what you're doing. If you lose weight too fast, too quick, without I was in bariatrics for 6 years. Same thing happened then, and we were not using Ozempic, right? So when you don't get the nutrients in, so this is where digestive enzymes are critical for anti-aging as well as preventing Ozempic face, because they're ensuring that your body is getting the nutrients. At the end of the day, everything goes back to nutrition, including your skin, right? So for your skin to maintain its elasticity and the collagen and all that thing, you have to have the nutrients. And if you don't have those nutrients, you're going to age faster, right? So this is where, when it comes to taking a digestive with your meals or taking enzymes in general, they ensure that your body is able to utilize and receive the essential fatty acids, the amino acids, the B vitamins, the fat soluble vitamins, etc., that are all required for your skin to stay healthy and lush and have that shine and so forth. You're using the topical approach, or we're ensuring the internal approach, while simultaneously making sure that every nutrient you're consuming that is supposed to be helping your skin, that it's getting digested appropriately and not adding more toxic burden, which is going to, dull the skin, worsen the skin. So it really is an internal external approach when it comes to the enzymes. So that's what they're doing there, as far as supporting that. Now, the thing to also note here is that whether you're on, so if you're on a GLP-1 drug, right? So because I have a feeling a lot of your listeners are probably tuning in because they're thinking about it or they're already on one. If you are on one of these drugs, it is not optional to be on digestive support. It is 100%. It should be required. Um, that's because what happens is these drugs, they inhibit gastric acid secretion. They inhibit elastase, which is a specific enzyme your pancreas makes to help your body digest your food. Elastase is responsible for making enzymes like protease, which breaks down protein, amylase, which breaks down starch and different carbohydrates, lipase for fat, right? When we are not actually releasing that anymore, what does that equal? It results in malabsorption, right? Improper utilization of the nutrients. So now your body is becoming malnourished because it's not getting those nutrients. If you're not on the drugs, right? As you age, just like as you age, your hormone output goes down, so does your enzyme output. As you age, your enzyme production goes down about 10% every 10 years. So what supplementing does, it doesn't replace the action of what the pancreas is doing. It actually takes the burden off the pancreas, allowing more longevity for natural production. It's literally about as natural as you can get when it comes to using holistic approaches, or supplements, to support the body. Um, so that's really what it's doing. I'd say when it comes to the skin, it's making sure that the nutrients are going where they need to go and that we're getting the nutrients, right? And having a efficient absorption so that the skin can have all the precursors it needs to stay healthy. It's keeping the toxicity down, right? It's keeping inflammation down, which is going to exacerbate aging. But what it's also doing when you support digestion, it's supporting the microbiome. There are specific bacteria within your gut that can make you age faster, that can create acne, that cause eczema, that cause staph, that cause psoriasis. So by supporting digestion through, making sure we're having a healthy diet, digesting that food, having that probiotic to reintroduce good bacteria that promote healthy skin. For example, B subtilis, which is a strain that we use in one of our formulas, it's been shown in research to not only help with frequent staph infections, eczema, psoriasis, but also it has anti-aging benefits. It's a bacterial strain. A lot of the natural skin products out there, what are they using? The topical ones. They're using bacteria, right? So why would it just make sense? Why would you not have cover yourself on all your bases, internally and externally? So does that help answer that question? No, what's causing the issues is people aren't being supported properly when they're on them. So whether, even if you have diabetes, you still need the enzymes to support, because the problem with the drugs is, and there's a lot of misinformation out there, that they're causing thyroid cancer. Not a lot of literature to support that claim, that they're causing this, that, but a lot of the number one side effects are GI related: constipation, bloating, nausea, gastroparesis, etc. By taking the enzymes, it mitigates all of those side effects, which allows people that really need the drug to stay on it, right? For one. Yeah, but it also helps prevent the drastic weight regain that can happen when you get off those drugs, because your body has not been in a state of starvation for that entire time you were on them, because you're actually digesting and utilizing the nutrients and able to eat even more. So they also can help with the rebound effect that can happen by making sure your body's not in that starvation state while you're on them. Yeah. Yeah, well, definitely. If you're interested in, learning more about the enzymes and understanding how they play a role, whether it be in natural weight loss, support while you're on the GLP-1, you can definitely reach out to us directly at clinic@tecenzymes.com. And for anyone listening today, you can use code Sunshine Botanicals when you come to our website, transformationenzymes.com, at checkout, to get 10% off of any product you'd like to purchase from Transformation. And that's a thank you to Sunshine Botanicals as a partner of Transformation. We offer you guys that discount for being a listener of Emily's podcast. So it's all caps Sunshine Botanicals at checkout for that discount code. And you can even schedule time with me or one of our enzyme clinicians that can help kind of guide you on where to get started as well by contacting us through our website. Sure. Thanks for having me.